Chamber of Commerce. It is my pleasure to be one of the partners that have helped bring the governor to Quincy today. And welcome. I'm glad that you all took an hour or so out of your day to come learn more about the state of Illinois and what our governor and his folks are going to do to fix all of our problems. He'll have all the answers today, right, Governor?
There you go.
Well, you know, I believe that our government is only as good as the effort that we are all willing to put into it. So it's really nice to see so many people, like I said, that have given an hour of their day to learn more what we can do to help our governor. So again, on behalf of the chamber, it's my pleasure to welcome you. And now I would like to turn the mic over to Mike McLaughlin. Where's Mike McLaughlin? There you go.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for everybody coming out today. It's great to have the governor here with us again. I'm here representing GRETA, the Great River Economic Development Foundation, and we're just tickled to death that Governor Rauner is back. We're hoping that we can help him strengthen Illinois and make some changes, and I will just say thank you from GRETA's board, staff, Marcel and Maggie Strong, and I will introduce Mike Elby, the president of John Wood Community College.
Mike and Amy. I'd like to take this opportunity just to welcome everyone to John Wood Community College. This is our Workforce Development Center. And as you look around here, this is where we do workforce training in career and technical education. As you look on the other side of the fence, it's a milling and machining area that we train, industrial maintenance and robotics. On the other side, we have 22 welding stations. Outside, you can see that we have truck driver training, transportation, distribution, and logistics. We have building trades and electrical. So this is the facility that delivers those train to go to work, those important programs that are so important for our local businesses. And I will tell you, within the last 30 days, I've been asked as president of this college, has John Wood changed our focus to be more of a career technical college? And my response to that is absolutely not. We will be a strong transfer institution, but we are going to expand opportunities. And this is exactly what you see. This is expanding opportunities for our business partners based on the needs and the demands of their workforce. And so I welcome a governor to John Wood and our Workforce Development Center that one of his platforms is workforce development. And so please welcome, give a good Quincy welcome and West Central Illinois welcome to the Honorable Governor Bruce Rauner.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. I'm so excited. You know, this is one of my favorite communities in the great state of Illinois. This is awesome. If every community was as well run as Quincy, if every county was as well run as Adams County, if every community college was well run as John Wood, we wouldn't be in the deep yoga we're in as a state. This is great. I love coming to Quincy. You know, I've been here a lot the last few years, and I'm going to be here a lot as governor. And now living in Springfield is just a short drive, so it's you know, I'll be over here a great deal. Before I get started, one of my best partners and a great public servant in Springfield with me working for you, Randy Fries. Give a round of applause. So I decided to come over and visit with you today. A lot going on. I wanted to give you an update and just communicate with you. I want this to be fun and informative, and I want you to ask questions. We'll do some Q&A at the end. It's a critical time in the state, and I wanted to come over. I spent the day today, so I went over to the Veterans Home because I want to thank the staff. Boy, they've come through a stressful, terrible, tragic time and did an outstanding job. Their dedication saved lives. And I also wanted to honor our heroes over there. I gave a lot of hugs and high fives and selfies with our veterans. God bless them. They're our American heroes, and it was a privilege for me to be over there and let them know I'm working for them, and that all the people of Illinois appreciate that. I also went to your outstanding junior high. That's one of the prettiest school buildings in the entire state of Illinois, I can tell you that. And I have been in a lot of schools around Illinois because education is my #1 priority. That's where our tax dollars ought to go, is to our kids and our education system first and foremost. That's a great school. We had a great visit with the kids and the teachers. I also met with the district folks downtown on revitalizing the historic district and what you're doing there. I'm a big advocate for tourism, visitors. and restoration of historic districts. You've got the prettiest, there is no community that's got more historically significant, architecturally beautiful buildings than the city of Quincy. And seeing that rejuvenated and seeing the downtown coming back and learning and listening, that was very important to me too. And so we've had a great day visiting with, and then I met with a lot of elected officials from Adams County, as well as some of your mayors around Quincy. The mayor of Quincy's actually out of town, I think he's in Cincinnati or something. But anyway, we had a great day today. So let's talk about what's going on in your state government. We got our challenges. I think you know that. So let's talk about it in some detail. We are at one of the most important, critical times in our state history. We've been going down a bad road for a long time. This is not a recent problem. We've been spending more than we've been taking in for decades. We've been hiding it by not paying our pensions. We've been hiding it by borrowing. We've been hiding it by not paying our bills. But we've been spending ourselves into oblivion for a long time. And we gotta stop that. We should just, common sense, spend what we take in. It's a novel concept, but we gotta do that. And we can't just, and what the legislature's done, they had an unbalanced budget last year, $1.6 billion hole that I inherited when I came into office January 12th. I went immediately to the legislators and they said, hey, we gotta fix this. We're gonna run out of money in the next 6 months. And we agreed on roughly what we needed to do within about 2 weeks, but they wouldn't vote on it for 9 weeks. Because, they wanted pressure in child care, they wanted pressure in the court system. Drives me nuts. It's not the right thing to do, but that's the political process. Well, now they know they passed a $4 billion deficit budget in May. I mean, come on, it's just not. And they want me to raise taxes to fix it. No, we're going to change the structure. We need to change the structure that causes us to keep doing this. Because when I'm gone, I'll work for you for 4 years or 8 years, no longer than 8. I believe in term limits. But when I'm gone, I want to make sure that the system's working so we don't repeat these problems. We got a structure so there's a balance of power between the taxpayers and the insiders inside the government. That's the key to having balanced budgets and responsible government. We need a balance of power between the insiders in the government and the people who pay for government. It's not complicated. That's what we've got to do. And so it's a question, will we do that now or not? Are we going to stay on the long, slow decline that we've been on, chasing employers out, chasing growth out, keep raising taxes? We got the highest property taxes in America, in Illinois. Defunding our schools. We have not properly funded our schools for years and years. Are we going to stay on that track, or are we going to go in a different direction and turn it around and start going the right way? That's the challenge. And I'm on a mission. We are going to change direction, and we're going to have a responsible, balanced budget, long-term growth, pro-investment, pro-job creation, pro-career creation, best schools in America, and an ethical, efficient government working for you. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to change it right now. Now's the time. I don't want to wait 3 years. I don't want to wait 2 years. Now's the time. And I've told them, I am willing to talk about revenue. I'm willing to talk about certain revenue increases. I'm a small government anti-tax guy, but I'll negotiate that. I'll work it, but only with real structural reform so we get out of this deficit spending. Because every time we've raised taxes over the last 30, 40 years, we're quickly in a deficit again. We just rank up the spending and borrow more, and then we're back in, and then we raise taxes again, and then we raise taxes again. How about if we grow? How about that as a novel idea? Let's grow. Let's grow. Let's be clear. We cannot tax our way out of our problems, and unfortunately, we can't just cut. We're cutting, but we can't just cut our way out of our problems. We've got to grow. We've got to grow our economy. We've got to grow our tax base. Now, the good news is we have every reason to really grow. We got the hardest working people in America. We got the best location of any state in America. We got the best agriculture sector of any state in America. We've had the best infrastructure of any state in America. We've had one of the better education systems of any state in America. We've let it deteriorate, but we can restore that quickly. We have every reason to thrive. And we got the commercial capital of the heart of America in the Chicago metro area. We should be kicking tails. Instead, Indiana's taking our manufacturing base. Tennessee are taking our companies. Texas taking our companies. We are one of the worst states for economic growth and job creation of any state. At the bottom. We should be in the top 5. Instead, we're in the bottom 5. No good reason for that other than bad policies in Springfield. That's it. That's the only reason. We're going to change it. We're going to grow. So what are we going to do? So we're taking action now to really shrink and make the government more efficient. So what are we doing? So in every department, we're bringing in computer systems, digitizing things, changing the processes. We're taking processing times for getting a license in the state from 6 weeks down to 1 week. In many departments, we're taking the turnaround times for processing applications from 4 weeks to 1 day. We're bringing in computer systems right now in the Department of Professional Licensing in Springfield. It's paper-based. You got hundreds of people moving paper across their desks. I went in there when I first went, and I said, "Goodness, I think somebody told me they invented computers a couple years ago. You know, we could actually maybe improve this. We could spend half $500,000 on a computer system, save maybe $5, $6, $7 million a year. We're cutting $70 million in efficiencies out of Department of Healthcare and Family Services right now. We're changing. We're throughout the lottery manager, bringing a new lottery manager. Immediately, we're saving $22 million. We're hundreds of millions of dollars of cost saving. And the other day, I announced we're going to get out of the Thompson Center in Chicago. That is one of the best economic decisions we can make. No, simple fact is, Springfield's the capital, not Chicago. Sometimes people forget that. But it's really an economic decision. Not everybody's going to move to Springfield. Some people will be in offices in Chicago. Some will move to Springfield. But we could give away that building. In fact, I could pay somebody to take over that building, and we'd save taxpayer money. It costs us 3 times as much per person to run that building as with state employees in it than if we just go into lease space in Chicago or Springfield. Triple. And most of that building you can't even use because it's a hollow tube, and you're spending a fortune heating and cooling the building with empty air for no benefit. And we could save between $6 and $12 million a year just moving out and leaving it as a structure. But the reality is, we could sell it, and you know what? I think we get 9 figures. That's one of the most valuable blocks of any city, in the entire state. That's your money. We can get that. How about we put that money into schools instead of heating and cooling a bunch of empty air? That's what we can. So we're shrinking the wasteful spending, and there's lots of opportunity. I'll be very busy the next 3 years cutting the wasteful spending. There's a lot to do. We got a great team doing it. But a lot of the biggest savings I can't do unless the legislature helps me. Okay? That's just true. Now, for example, on pensions. Pensions, the Supreme Court has ruled that a lot of pension changes are not allowed. I want people to have good retirement. I don't want to, reduce the benefits for retirees. I don't want to take away any benefit that's been accrued, but I would like the cost to be lower for future work, for current employees' future work, not just for new hires. And the one way we can constitutionally do that is to take certain things out of collective bargaining and then use those compensation levels to incentivize people to move into Tier 2 or a new Tier 3. And we can say, if we do what we've recommended on pensions, we can save $2 billion per year right now. And it's constitutional. It would be constitutional. So far, the legislature hasn't been willing to vote on it because they're holding up all of our goals. But we could save $2 billion a year right there. We could also save, the legislature, they passed a $4 billion unbalanced budget in May. In their budget, they assumed that we were going to save $750 million in government employee health care. They just assumed that. So their budget wasn't $4.2 billion in the hole, it's really $5 billion in the hole, because they were assuming that was coming. They were counting on me to either cause that in negotiations, which we're working on, but I can't promise that at all. But the real way to do it is to take it out of collective bargaining, just like Massachusetts and other states have, but the legislature won't vote on that. They vote that the savings will happen. They won't vote to make it happen. Because they think that way they can have a budget that looks more balanced than it really is. That's what's going on. So I need them to take a vote on pension reform. I need them to take a vote on the health care plan that we've got. So far, they've refused. Now, and unfortunately, and this is the biggest key. Many things, even President Cullerton, the president of the Senate, he's offered pension reform to taking away the salary increases out of the benefit, the calculation for pension benefits. And in order for him to do his plan, he has to take salary increases out of collective bargaining. So this is the core issue, one of the biggest issues, and I want you to understand what's at stake here, because I'm going to need your support. We need to do what most states have done. We need the ability to take certain things out of collective bargaining so we can use those to save costs. That's the core issue. And I'm not trying to end collective bargaining. I'm not trying to eliminate it the way some other states done. Many states have just said, if it's a government employee, you don't collectively bargain, period, end of story. I'm not saying that. Well, what I am saying is communities, as well as the state government, need the ability to take some things out of collective bargaining if they need to from a cost point of view. That's it. That is the core, that's the biggest thing. And I want your community, Adams County, Quincy, Camp Point, wherever, you should be able, it's your community. It doesn't belong to Springfield. It's your community. It doesn't belong to the government unions. It belongs to you. If you want to collectively bargain everything, like we do in Illinois today, fine, keep it. But if you need to take something out of collective bargaining, you should be able to do that because it's your town, it's your school, it's your community. It doesn't belong to anybody else. Chicago's been doing this for years, but they haven't let you do it in your community. Chicago has taken the length of school day out of collective bargaining with the legislature's support, the Democrat support. Chicago has taken length of school year out of collective bargaining. They've taken staffing levels and class size out of collective bargaining. And right now they've asked us and the government to take teachers' required employee share pension contributions out of collective bargaining so they can make their teachers pay more into their pensions. Why do they get to decide what's in collective bargaining in Chicago and you don't get to decide what's in collective bargaining in your community? Why is that fair? The answer is it's not fair. And Chicago's getting away with it partly because they've done such a horrible job of managing their community. They're in financial apocalypse. I mean, it's a mess. Chicago is in deep, deep trouble, worse than any community by far. And they've got the lowest credit rating of any city in America other than Detroit. And they're in big trouble. Their schools are going to run out of money in the next couple months, and they don't have the money. They're raising their property taxes $500 million, and they don't have the money to pay for their police and fire pension in December. And they're asking me to put in a kick-the-can pension ramp and defer the pension payment. Saying, well, I'll talk to you about that, but how come do the other communities get to change their pension ramp and their pension payments? Are you doing that for Quincy? Are you doing that for Decatur? No, just Chicago. Why? Why does Chicago get the special deals and the rest of the state doesn't get anything? This is not the state of Chicago. This is the state of Illinois. So we got to change this. So, and I've said, look, I've laid out, you can look at right up online, I've laid out I've done a lot of turnarounds in my life. A lot of, I've financed 400 companies. They didn't all work. And sometimes they need to get, and we laid out a 44 bullet point about how to turn Illinois around so we can grow more jobs, higher incomes, better schools, value for taxpayers. We laid it right out there. And I've said, look, we can't get it all done in 1 year. It's not going to happen. And we did sponsor 6 bills. The first 6 points to get done, the legislature's refused to vote on a single one of our bills. They haven't been willing to vote on any one of our bills. And people say, well, Bruce, you're asking for too much. You're asking for 6 bills. You know how many bills they passed in the spring? 500. They can do 6. It's not that, it's not like they don't have the time. They got the time. And they're pretty simple, pretty straightforward bills. And I've said, I'm willing to take even some of those off the table. But we got to do something material here. I'm not just going to raise taxes and leave the status quo. Just not doing it, period. So I've asked, hey, how about term limits? How about we limit people in office to 2 terms, to 8 years in office? Okay? So people who are in office, they're there for the right reasons. It's not a career to make a lot of money, to assemble power. It's just serve, use common sense judgment, and leave, go back to the real world. Or if you want to stay in public service, God bless you, do it. But do it, run for another office. It's no problem. Great. Got no problem with that. Term limits. How about, and redistricting reform. How about if we stop picking these districts that look like spaghetti noodles and blocking in incumbents? And why don't the districts just represent general population? And let's have competitive general elections again. People deserve that. That's how democracy can work. Let's do that. They've said no to both of those. They've said no to term limits. They've said no to redistricting reform. Okay, so what about giving the whole state what Chicago's had for years? How about each community gets to decide what gets bargained, bid, and contracted for? It's your community. You should decide. No, Springfield shouldn't tell you. Let's get the unfunded mandates off you. When you want to build a taxpayer-funded construction project, if you want to have a certain wage forced into the that's fine, that's your decision. Shouldn't be told by somebody else. And you shouldn't be forced to have higher taxes because you're building something with taxpayer money. You should decide. So bargaining, bidding, contracting, how about local control? And people say to me, well, Bruce, you're just trying to take away collective bargaining. No, I'm not. What I'm asking is, let's not let Springfield decide it all. Let each community decide. Many communities are going to keep everything collectively bargained. Fine. But I want them to make that decision. I don't want them to be forced to do that. There's a big distinction between, I'm not taking it away. I'm not forcing it out. I'm just giving you the freedom to choose. I'm a big local control, freedom to choose. Big core principle I think we need in Illinois. And we can restore good government by that. So far they've said no. I've asked for workers' comp reform. Workers' comp is the #1 thing killing our manufacturers in Illinois. Caterpillar told me workers' comp costs 5 times as much in Illinois as the states that they build their other stuff in. And they've been growing their employment base out of Illinois for years. Other manufacturers are going to Indiana, Tennessee, and Texas because of workers' comp costs. I've asked to change that. And by the way, in our governments, in our city governments and our county governments, workers' comp costs are driving up taxpayer costs usually. So far they've refused. Everything in our pension reform they refused. So far they've just said no, 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 no. Okay, look, and then they'll say to me, well, Bruce, you're being extreme. You're just being extreme. Okay, now, and they also say, and you're asking us to violate a core belief of the Democratic Party. Those are the 2 things they say mostly. Oh, and by the way, they say that I'm hurting the middle class. Since when do higher taxes, bigger government bureaucracy, defunded schools, fewer jobs hurt the middle class? I don't, they're hurting the middle class with current policies. What we're trying to do is help the middle class and grow the economy here. But let's think about, when they say I'm extreme, or they say I'm violating the core principle of the Democratic Party, let's be clear. The vast majority of Democrats in Illinois and around America support term limits. It's not extreme, and it's supported by Democrats. We should vote for it. The vast majority of Democrats in Illinois and around America support redistricting reform, so we can have competitive general elections. The vast majority support in both parties. Doesn't violate core belief for the Democrats. It's not extreme. Let's vote for those 2. And local control issues. They say, well, that's really violates our core belief because we want collective bargaining. I say, first of all, I'm not saying no collective bargaining. I want local control. But let's be clear. Democrats in Illinois have taken collective bargaining issues off the table in Chicago and unfunded mandates off the table for Chicago repeatedly. So don't tell me the Democratic Party won't take things out of collective bargaining, because that's just not true. And so Massachusetts, total Democratic control, has taken health care and many issues out of collective bargaining at the state level. And I don't know if you know this, our federal government, when it was controlled 100% Democratic president and Democratic Congress in 1978, voted, and only a handful of things are allowed to be collectively bargained for federal employees. Most things are not allowed to be collectively bargained. That was done by a Democratic president and Democratic Congress. So don't tell me this is some violation of a Democratic core principle, because it's not. And even further, 33 states, many of which are controlled by Democrats, 33 states limit collective bargaining in government. This is not extreme, and this is not partisan. This is the common way. 33 states. And 41 states, many of which are Democratic controlled, limit prevailing wage restrictions and forced higher pay on construction projects. 41 states. So don't tell me it's extreme. Don't tell me that it's, anti what the Democrats believe. Not true. They're just trying to make stuff up to throw mud against it so we don't have change. We got to call them on it. Let's be honest about what's really going on. So we're at a key time now. We should have had a budget 5 months ago. We don't have one. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to get one in the next 60 to 90 days. Frankly, for no other reason than Chicago needs help. And I said, I'm not going to do a bailout, but I'll help Chicago solve its own problems by giving them the power to do it, but only if Chicago's helping us get reforms to the state. This is a two-way partnership. Don't have Chicago asking for help when the Chicago's not helping the state. I'm not doing it. This is a two-way partnership. I want Chicago healthy, but I want the state healthy, and we need to help each other. This is not a one-way deal. And Chicago needs help in December and January. Big help. I've said there's certain things I'll help. No big bailout, that's not happening, but you're not going to dump everything on the state, the taxpayers, just because you've mismanaged your money. That ain't happening. But we'll help, but it's going to be a two-way deal. So I'm cautiously optimistic that one way or another we're going to get change done in the next 90 days. Between now and then, we need your help. You spread the word when you're talking to your legislator. You've got some who in this region of the state who are for reforms, and you've got some who are blocking reforms. And the simple reality is we've got to change the government so it's working for all of you. It's not just working for the Chicago machine. It's simple. It sounds harsh, but I got to call it as it is. We've got to have the governments working for you and the entire state. If we stay strong, we'll get there. With your help, we'll get there. So, stay strong. I'm going to keep you informed. I'll be back again soon, give you an update. I hope you're reading the headline that we got a breakthrough and we actually got big reforms. That's my goal. And I'm negotiating. By the way, I don't go into detail. I learned over the summer talking in public about what we're negotiating with who, when. Is very unproductive. So I don't talk about it. I'm negotiating with the speaker regularly. I'm negotiating with the president regularly. I'm negotiating with the mayor of Chicago. He's got a lot of influence with the folks. We're making some progress, not as much as we need to, but we're just working relentlessly every day, and we're grinding. And we got the force of right on our side. I believe very strongly what we're doing is the right for the long term. May not be right for just the next election, which is what everybody wants to focus on. What we got to do is think about what's right for the next generation. So our kids and our grandkids are thriving and having good lives in Illinois. That's the reason I ran, and that's what I'm personally committed to doing for all of your kids, our grandkids. That's what it's all about. Because we're here because we love Illinois. This is home. Home's worth fighting for. And this is a big battle. So God bless you. It's good to catch up with you. I appreciate you very much. Let's do a few questions. Anybody have a question or issue? Anybody? I know you got to have some. If not, we can. Oh, yes, sir.
As a member-owned cooperative, we don't enjoy disconnecting our members when they don't pay. It's a fact of life, and sometimes that's unnecessary.
Right.
How long is it fair for the state of Illinois to not pay and
Right.
expect to have the lights stay on?
Right. It's a great question. It's a painful. So we're one of the few states. I've been trying to do homework on how other states do this. We're like the only state that regularly doesn't pay its bills. I can't find another state that doesn't pay. In fact, it's illegal in most states not to pay your bills. We just don't pay. And what really frosts me beyond not paying, because it's just not fair. It's just not a reasonable way to do business. We put in, and I'm learning that it's to some politically connected groups. There are certain bills, not all bills, but certain bills where we pay 12% interest. You pay 12% interest when we don't pay. We'll only do that to only politically connected groups. But you're paying 12% interest when we don't pay. Come on. This system is broken. We've got to be paying our bills. And one of the reasons that we're going to need tax reform and whatnot is we've got a $6.5 billion bill, unpaid bill backlog, and we got to take that to zero. There shouldn't be a bill backlog. And we've got to pay our pensions. Now I want to change the structure of the pensions. Don't reduce anybody's historical benefit, but for future pay, change the pension system. But we've got to fund the old unfunded pension liability. We have a duty to do that. For better or worse, we made those promises. People in the past, they weren't intended to pay them. They wanted to get out of office by the time. Well, I'm paying them. We got to pay them. We have a moral obligation to pay them. So we're going to have some revenue to do that. But we're going to live within our means and have a balanced budget, and we're going to pay our bills. And just hang in there. That's going to happen pretty soon. And, yes, sir.
Where do you see the progress on the regulatory issues? I'm involved in a lot of permits, working as an engineer for a lot of different entities, and we're still seeing delays on getting permits through Department of Natural Resources, not only EPA, and now we have the Corps of Engineers, we've got a whole series of new permits from federal. And do you see some things that can help us in that end to be able to continue construction?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm doing everything that we can to streamline our processes so we turn permits around, we turn applications around quickly. We're taking it from weeks to days. Changing the culture of the bureaucracy is hard. And I apologize. You know what? If you wouldn't mind telling specifically, I don't control the Corps of Engineers. I can't. the federal government's going really the wrong way, and has been for a while. But in Illinois, we're changing it. We've got a great head of the DNR. The EPA, Illinois EPA needed to come around. We're bringing them around. We've got a mindset in Illinois government that business is the enemy. The bureaucracy thinks that business is the enemy, when in reality, business is our lifeblood. And the government should be creating an environment for business to thrive. Instead, they regard business as a piggy bank to be shaking money out of. That's how they regard business. We've got changing that mindset doesn't happen immediately, but we're changing it. And if you would let our team know where DNR is not being responsive or the EPA is not being responsive, I believe you will. I would appreciate the opportunity to focus on that and make sure that happens. I can't solve a problem I don't know about. We're changing things, but I'm sure we got a ways to go. It's not all fixed, and so you telling us where it's not working, I have a friend who's a big dentist practice. This quick story. He moved to visit his wife's parents were ill, so they wanted to be near the family. He moved to Minnesota for a while. He changed his license. Minnesota, he changed his license. He was practiced dentistry in Minnesota like that. He wanted to come home to Chicago, or not Chicago, somewhere in Lake County. Wanted to get his license back in Illinois. They said, well, you got to send in your form and we'll turn it around. Paper form, 6 weeks. Didn't hear anything back, and he called up. I got to start my business. Where? And they said, oh, we lost your application. He said, send in another one. We'll give you another 6 weeks, and then we'll turn around. And he said, no, I got to go now. He went in to the licensing and made them in a couple hours. They found it. But it's a problem. Minnesota, 1 day digital, 6 weeks, and they lose it in Illinois. See, that stuff is what was part of changing the culture that we got to change. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Bill Pittman, I represent the Elks at the Veterans Home. Glad to see you went out there.
Yeah.
They were telling me that because of the lack of funding, they have vendors that are cutting on them. The Elks so far has given them $5,000 to buy the water bottles and to pay for their ice. What do you see in the future that they're going to be able to help us with funding?
Yeah, so, and I feel terrible about that, I'm sorry. So we're trying to get his budget. That's the reason I'm pushing so hard on the negotiations. I wanted to get a budget so we don't have that kind of stuff go on. The one thing we have done, I'll let you know, is we've talked to some lenders. We already have a vendor finance program. So if you're a supplier of services to the state, we've come up with a way to get you some advanced cash. So when the state, you can pay the loan back when the state pays it back. We're working on a vendor supply program. And I've asked some other banks in Illinois to set up an additional larger loan program to get organizations through this crisis phase. And we just arranged $100 million, or we're close to finalizing, I'll say that, $100 million line of credit to help with situations like that. If you let our team know, I don't know whether I can make any promises about it, but we're trying to solve the problems as best we can. Yes.
Bob, you're Daisy from Quincy University.
Yeah, good to see you.
That's good to see you. That's encouraging. Will you include colleges and universities in the financing program for math?
I think that the dollar levels there are so big. I'm not sure I can. A lot of it it's $1 million, $2 million. It's so frustrating to me that we would not be able to fund scholarships for the kids. It's just outrageous. It makes me so mad. But without a budget, that's the reason I'm pushing so hard for time. So much of what's happening is just wrong. We should have a budget, but we should not be causing pain for the people who they deserve to. Our universities, our scholarships, they should not be hurt by this. There's a lot of people who are being inappropriately hurt from this process. It drives me nuts. Yes, sir.
I represent my little 11-year-old daughter. I told her you can do it today. And she wants to know when the Rising Spring program is going to get free out there so that they can open up Dixon Mounds, Lincoln Fish
Yeah. So, I agree. We've had to close the state museum. We've had to close a lot of things that I don't want to. Tell her we're working as hard as we can. Give her my personal apology. I wish if I could snap my fingers, we wouldn't be in this mess. But I'm not it takes a lot of people coming around. But tell her that we're working and we're hoping the next couple months. Right. Just some common sense. this political process is hard. There's been a lot of votes taken in the General Assembly more to provide cover for the next election, just kind of votes that aren't real, rather than actually just solving the problem. The real votes to solve the problem have not been taken. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.